Welcome to Listening to Silence, a video podcast in which I interview two guests per episode, discussing with them meaningful, productive, and reflective ways in which they use silence in their work and life. My guests are activists, artists, educators, curators, and other cultural practitioners usually working within the field of decolonial memory practice. Welcome to another episode of Listening to Silence. This is the video podcast series in which I invite activists and artists of all different kinds to talk about the ways in which they use silence actively in their work. And today I have with me in the studio Chayenne Atmoredjo, who is a family research specialist and also a poet, spoken word poet, written poet, all kinds of poetry.
Yes.
And on the other side of me is Vuslat Topal, who is a literary and cultural theorist and also a poet.
Yes.
So poetry is the first thing that you guys have in common, but there's more that you guys have in common, and I'm sure that we will talk about it soon. Last year, you were my intern for
That's
this
true.
project, for Listening to Silence, and you were part of the interview series that I was hosting, and you actually reached out to Cheyenne, not me. You were the one doing the interview with Cheyenne.
Yeah.
So it's an honor for me to kind of have you both together here, both as my guests, to continue the conversation that started last year, which I think was really interesting and insightful. So without further ado, let's get started. Maybe I would ask you guys to quickly introduce yourselves a little bit in more detail, and if you can, already say something about your personal relationship to silence. Who would like to start? Would you like to start?
Yeah, I can start.
Go for it.
So my name is Vuslat, and I'm from Turkey and Cyprus, but I was born and raised in Saudi Arabia. And I think that my cultural background influences my poetry a lot, but also influences different areas in my life. And I have been in the Netherlands for 4 years now. And yeah, I mean, it's been a journey. And yeah, I'm excited to see where I will go in the next couple of years. And yeah, in terms of silence, I think it is something I think about almost on the daily, actually. Maybe not consciously, but more, subconsciously. And I definitely do use it in my poetry as well. When I write poetry, maybe like the writing process, but also when I'm performing it, which is something I started to do recently, I would say. And yeah, I think I'll leave it at that for now.
All right. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Yes. My name is Cheyenne, and I'm a family research specialist as my work, what I do in families, and I really love to do that. And I also write poetry and spoken word. And the relationship between me and silence is that I use the silence in my work so people can understand what I'm saying and think about it, what they think. That's it for now, I guess.
Yeah, so silence is kind of a space that you create for people to reflect on what you're saying in their own pace.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think later when we start talking about really your poetry and also yours, we can delve into that deeper. But for now, I would still also like to hear a little bit about what you think about silence personally. When you encounter it in your life, do you like it? Do you find it uncomfortable, for example?
I know that a few years ago, I think it was very uncomfortable because I was like, oh, where's the noise, There are no people talking, but there was a friend of mine who told me that there was research done, and they said that when you have silence between people, that you're on the same page, on the same level. And with that thought in mind, I really okay with silence.
Yeah, I think that's a valuable insight that you also hear it a lot between friends or between loved ones, for example. It's important that you can talk to each other, but also that you can be quiet or silent together in a comfortable way. This is kind of what you mean also.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
How about you?
I just wanted to add that I think Cheyenne brought this research up last year as well during the interview. And I remember her also talking about kind of open questions, and that's kind of what we talked about then, where if you ask someone an open question, then you give them the space to talk about what they're going through maybe, versus if you're just like, are you okay? And then that's a closed question, and then you just say yes or no. But yeah, maybe that's something we can delve into a bit more later.
For sure.
And for me, I think I've always, to an extent, been comfortable with silence, because I do also see it as something where you're just comfortable with the other person. If you're comfortable with the silence, you're comfortable being there, and you're kind of taking the moment in. But of course, there can be awkward silences as well. And yeah, there are times I think that I have stayed silent and maybe I shouldn't have, or maybe to step out of my comfort zone, it would have been better for me to speak. But yeah, I do have some examples for that I can...
If you please go ahead, for sure.
Well, for example, yesterday I was actually at a Turkish restaurant. It was kind of like it's by the central station in Leiden. Actually, it's really good. It's called like Saray Pita House, I believe, and they have really good like falafel wraps and things. So my friend and I went there. We wanted to get some wraps, and I know that this place is Turkish, and I'd been there before, and sometimes I think I spoke in Turkish, but that was only the case when they actually asked if I'm from Turkey or not. And then I would be like, oh, yeah, I am. Oh, like, thank you or whatever. And this time, before I walked into the restaurant, it was already on my mind whether I would speak Turkish or not. That's kind of like a decision. I was like, should I make it? Should I not? Should I stay silent? In the end, I ended up not speaking any Turkish, even though I know I could have. And there's Turkish music in the background. I know they're Turkish. I know that we have this element that bonds us, yet I still kind of held back. And maybe that was, in a way, staying in my comfort zone. But I don't know. It's just more comfortable sometimes to not speak in my mother tongue. And I think that relates to kind of sometimes being judged for it back at home. And of course, I don't want to relive that. So I think it's, in a way, like a protective mechanism, if that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I think it's a really good example because it's a kind of an ambivalent situation, I think, you're describing, where, if I hear you correctly, you're both saying, in a way, I wish I would, speak Turkish in this situation and kind of get out of my comfort zone a little bit. So then speaking up in a particular language in this case would actually be a form of empowerment perhaps, or a form of liberation. And the silence is then what holds you back. On the other hand, though, and it's not either or, but it's kind of both, this same silence is also protective of you, where the alternative where you would speak up in Turkish would also expose you as someone speaking it in a certain kind of way, for example. Is that what it is? Kind of, would it be also the fear of not speaking it correctly or speaking it differently?
Yeah, I think so. And I don't necessarily have a very like obvious accent in Turkish. I think I can definitely pass as someone who's grown up in Turkey. But I do know that sometimes the way I pronounce things or the word order or something is a little bit off. So it does make people question like, oh, okay, there's something there.
Yeah.
So I think that is my fear, that someone's going to be like, oh, I caught you almost.
Yeah. And it's a good example, because I think many people, also people that are listening to this, can relate to this, especially in intercultural situations where people are from two different cultural backgrounds, for example, or multiple, or their parents are born in a different country, for instance, and speak a different language originally. Like I myself have the same situation with Malaccan Malay, where I speak it, but not that good, I find. And it becomes kind of a matter of whether I'm comfortable enough with the person I'm speaking to, whether I want to open that up or not. And sometimes, there's no shame per se in not doing it. This is one of the things we want to learn here, of course, that silence is I see a reluctance to see silence in this case as something good because you feel that it might keep you in your comfort zone. On the other hand, it really depends who you speak to. And perhaps in a restaurant, you don't have to. You may stay in your comfort zone sometimes if you just want to eat.
That's
know.
true.
Yeah, very good.
No, for sure.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Do you have similar examples or anecdotes or ways in which you use silence like this?
I guess sometimes when I'm with new people and they're like, "Oh, so you can also talk Javaans, you
Japanese,
know, Japanese," then I'm like, "No, I can't," because my dad was 3 while he came to the Netherlands. So yeah, he grew up here and he don't speak any Indonesian or Japanese. So that's sometimes a thing that I don't like to discuss with people. Then I'm like, oh, no, just
No, I can totally resonate with this also because you're from a Javanese background, not Surinamese Javanese or Surinamese Javanese. Yeah, so this is we've had people at the table before who were from Surinamese Hindustani background, Surinamese Chinese background, for example, and this is a post-colonial history that is so complex, where multiple ethnicities and histories come together, and by far not every person in that community in the Netherlands actually can speak any of the languages that come together here, often because their parents were very young when they came to the Netherlands, right after independence. And then to not speak can also be okay, because as a person with that background, you don't have to be forced to prove your identity constantly to other people.
No,
It's true.
Yeah. Which is not to say that it can still be nice eventually if you have the time to learn the language, that can also be empowering.
Yeah.
Again, I think the lesson so far is that it doesn't have to be either or. We don't have to choose between speaking up or remaining silent. We can just choose which one makes more sense to us personally in a particular situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
All right. Shall we move on to your actual poetry?
Yeah.
I would love to hear some poems. I'm thinking because my first question about poetry would be, how do you work with silence in your poetry? And we can either take that question from an abstract perspective, or we can maybe just delve into it. And if you're comfortable with it, you could perform some poetry, and we can base ourselves on a concrete case. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, that's the thing with poets. You just have to allow them to start speaking the poetry.
Yeah.
Who wants to start? You?
Shall I start?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a poem that relates to languages. And I actually included it in my master's thesis as well. So that's something we can talk about later. Let me see. Yes, so the title is My Tongue is Heavy. My tongue is heavy. It wears shame like a strong cologne, leaving a bitter taste in my mouth. I try to wash it, spit it out. The vowels spill to the ground, smelling like milk gone sour. The consonants hang on the ceiling, trying to balance like a trapeze artist, but instead falling and falling and falling. All that can be heard is crooked, half-formed words I can't properly pronounce. Evet, a simple word meaning yes in Turkish. How stupid is it that I can't properly pronounce a word that is so common? My tongue is ashamed to call me its daughter. A friend once told me I am not truly Turkish because I do not pronounce evet with the right vowel. I use a instead of e. Open my mouth a bit too wide, but maybe that's because I carry too many languages. You see, when I was a baby, Turkish cradled me and sang me sweet lullabies. English held my hand in class, and French laughed at me behind my back. Arabic said hi every now and then, and Dutch became my best friend. I wonder which language will rock me in my rocking chair when I am old and bury me in my grave. Which language will I say I do in, or I love you, or I miss you? My tongue. twisting and turning, ever expanding, morphing into a language of its own. All of these broken, half-formed languages must add up to a whole, complete one. Because even though I do not know where I am from, I know that my tongue speaks me into belonging wherever I go. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thank you so much. Would you like to respond to it?
Yeah, I really love the feeling you give the people who are listening. You know, it's so, you describe it so good in every detail. So the one who listen is so into your story. And that's what I really love about this.
Thank you
That
so
you can
much.
feel what you feel at that moment.
Yeah, I agree. In a way, it's a poem about languages and kind of the fact that identity cannot be grasped in one particular language.
Yeah.
But in a way, it shifts between different languages. And even if you combine all the different languages that you speak to some extent or completely or half or a little bit, even then identity is still bigger than kind of whatever the languages can describe.
Yeah.
And then in the performance itself, some of that is also in the way you speak the words, the way you pronounce or articulate them. Kind of the heaviness of the tongue is also felt in the way that you pronounce the words, I think. So
That's interesting.
yeah,
Yeah.
well done, beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you want to be next.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I think it's this.
Go for it.
Ja. Ik dacht dat ik verantwoordelijk was voor jouw dood. Ik dacht dat ik verantwoordelijk was voor jouw dood, misschien. Jij gaf signalen, signalen, signalen en ik had niet de juiste bril. Dus ik heb ze niet gezien. Toch? Je nam afscheid van mij. Ik zag het niet, je zei niks. Stuurde mij een appje van tevoren, want ik zal onze afspraak wel vergeten zijn. Natuurlijk niet. Wij deden altijd hetzelfde. Afspreken, verschijnen en daarna voor een tijdje weer verdwijnen. Maar wij vonden elkaar altijd weer. Gelukkig. Dat ging al jaren zo, sinds onze wegen scheiden. Voel me vereerd dat ik een week ervoor nog tijd met jou kon spenderen. En nu zie ik het. Want ik ben niet verantwoordelijk voor jouw dood. Ik ben niet verantwoordelijk voor jouw dood, misschien. Mensen gaven mij signalen dat ik niet verantwoordelijk ben en ik heb ze nu eindelijk ingezien. Ik deed mijn best, zoals jij dat ook deed. Hopelijk voelde je dat. Zal mijn lichten nu wel aandoen tijdens het fietsen, want nu fiets ik alleen. Ben nu wat ouder, jij kijkt mee over mijn schouder, dus geen zorgen. Men moet zich niet vergissen, ik zal je missen, maar weet dat ik je niet vergeet. En de moed meeneem naar morgen. Want ik ben verantwoordelijk voor mezelf.
Beautiful. In Dutch, of course. So we will subtitle it afterwards.
Oh, amazing.
But it's I could understand it, of course. You can probably understand it. to a great extent.
Verantwoordelijk is responsible, I'm guessing,
Yeah.
right?
Responsible,
Yes, yes, I understand. Yeah.
So could you tell us a little bit about this poem? And it's about someone passing away.
Yeah. It's about a friend. I knew him since I was 13, I guess, something like that. And from that time till when we finished high school, we we had different paths to walk on. So the contact was less. But after a few years, I was like, oh, how is it going with everyone? And we texted again. And he was like, oh, can we meet? And I was like, yeah, sure, it's amazing. And till that time, we meet once in 2 weeks or sometimes a month or in that case.
Right. So the longer you were hanging out with him, the more you realized that he wasn't doing so well.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. he wasn't doing so well, and I was like, okay, but you have to be always a friend, right? It's not only when everything is fine and you're feeling good that you're a friend at that time, but when it goes not so good with someone, that you're saying, oh, but then we can't meet, or something in that case. So yeah, we saw each other frequently. Amazing. Frequently, and yeah, I was still with that mind, like, you can't be only there when everything is fine and when you feel good. So when he feels shitty, I was there, and I always said till you die, but that was sooner than I expected, basically.
Yeah. So, and there's already kind of thank you for sharing, by the way. It's, of course, this is a difficult story for you, I can imagine.
Yeah.
And then I know that you also wrote a previous poem about this, in which you actually said, "Ik ben verantwoordelijk voor jouw dood." So I am responsible for your death.
Yeah.
And this is kind of a follow-up poem that happened like a year later or something.
Yeah, a year later.
In which you kind of have taken the time to kind of process your own position towards his, your own relationship to him, and what other people have told you over the last few months.
Yeah.
To conclude that maybe you are not responsible for him, but you are responsible for yourself.
Yeah.
Which
Exactly.
I think is a beautiful kind of lesson, and it's an example of kind of introspection and reflection. And if we want to bring in several kinds of silence here, I think we can see quite a few. One of them is the silent communication of a person to another person. For example, how did you know the person is not doing so well? Probably a lot of that is communicated not so much in the conversation that you have, but beyond.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So how do you listen to this kind of silence, for example? How do you see someone is, for instance, not doing so well?
Just know the patterns of someone. And when it... wanneer het, zeg maar, verschilt. When there's a difference in the patterns that you recognize, then it's like, okay, so maybe he's not feeling good, or maybe he needs some help, you know? And I think that's very important.
Yeah. And is this also, sorry, and I'll come back to you in a sec, but is this also some of the work that you do in your professional job as a family research specialist? Is it also about looking beyond what a person tells you explicitly?
Yeah, that's my job. Basically it is, yeah.
Can you tell us something about your job and what it entails?
I'm working with families where there's child abuse and neglect, and you have conversations with parents, but also with the child, and you have to figure out what is the needs of the family and the parents and the child, and where can we help to create a nice environment for everyone, where it's safe and relaxed.
Yeah. And again, here, probably similar to what you said before, identifying the patterns, listening beyond the surface level of what a person says.
Yeah.
Also, like body language, I think, because when you see them in person, then you can probably tell a lot from that. Like if they're fidgeting with something, or kind of they look a bit restless or something. Yeah.
And when I look at the last day I saw him, there were so many signals sent. But at that moment, I was like, sure. He sent me a message, hey, do you come today still? And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? You know, we did always the same, like I wrote in my poem. We made an appointment together, and we see each other because we knew when we meet. And that's something that, when I look back at it, I had so many signals to see. But at that moment, I was in the moment. You know, it was not. I was not so aware of the things, because I'm not in my professional role, and I have always said from the beginning, while I was wanneer ik wist dat hij zeg maar in zo'n instelling zat.
Yeah, when you knew that he was also institutionalized and
Oh yeah.
getting professional help.
Yeah, I said to him, you have professionals there and I'm your friend and I will stay your friend. I'm not your second or third therapist, you know?
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, I think that's what I also want.
Yeah, I think this is a really good example also where you can see that, first of all, on the professional level, as a therapist or someone working in social services or helping people out, you know, here it is listening to silence can be a skill that you can train. You can become better at it and more professional. And then as a friend, of course, you can train very similar skills as well. I think the difference between the friendship environment and the professional environment is that as a professional, you have to. This is your job. And as a friend, it helps, but it is not your responsibility, like you say in your second poem, to do it, because you're only human in that role, like anybody else.
Yes.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask something about, because now you've both, and stop me, by the way, if you want to perform more poetry, just interrupt me. Just go for it. Otherwise, I wanted to ask you something about performing on stage, because I know you're poet, so you write it on paper, but then you also perform it on stage. And of course, when there is a live setting that you include into the consideration, there's probably more performative silences that we can also talk about. So I was wondering if when you were on stage, how do you use silence performatively?
I think that there are certain lines in my poetry that I know I want to highlight. And so I try to pause a little bit before and after them to kind of, put them in the spotlight almost. But I do realize that sometimes when I am performing my poetry, I forget that I want to do that almost because I'm so wrapped up in the moment. And then I just kind of like gloss over that. And I'm like, oh, wait, maybe I should have paused there. But other times I am really like, I really want to highlight this. And then I realize that I'm doing it in that moment, if that makes sense. I think maybe as a performer, you can also relate. But I also grew up as a theater kid. So I'm also kind of used to being on stage and performing and having an audience. And, you know, you have a relationship with your audience as well because they react and you react to that as well. So it also differs per audience, I would say. Like this poem that I performed for you guys, I performed on stage twice at the same theater. And I realized that my first audience was actually more kind of involved, and you can hear them laughing at some parts when I mentioned like the French part, you know, and then some parts they were like, oh, like, I don't know, you also can see them, and this is the theater that you came to last month, I believe, and it's an interactive kind of theater where the audience is encouraged to give their kind of live reactions and, you know, snap or you know, just say something. And at the end of my first performance, I remember hearing a lot of people just being like, oh, moi, you know, and that just felt really, really nice as well. And I didn't expect this, but so many people, I don't know, but I think 3-4 people came up to me and they were like, I cried. So that obviously means a lot as well. And I could see some of them in the audience crying too.
Yeah.
So then I try to slow down, I think, when I'm performing then, because I try to give them a moment to kind of feel it, to take it all in. And
So that's really, really great to see that silence in the performance context is also something interactive. It's something that you kind of do depending on what the audience is doing in this case. So it has to be in reaction to what you see happening in front of you.
Yeah.
Depending on whether the audience is, for example, very active, kind of screaming confirmations or laughing out loud when you say something funny, or kind of, you know, making their reactions heard throughout, or if they're kind of more passively just sitting there and listening, perhaps. Probably the way in which you actively use silence also changes. Yeah, and the silence can then be loaded with, charged with meaning, basically, depending on what the context is, and also whether it's an emotional, sad poem or a kind of a funny poem. There's so many ways in which silence can then add to the performance of the text, actually. Yeah, so the only thing that is written out in the end, of course, is the text, and then the silence is something that happens live, I guess, depending on the moment. In your case, at least.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. Similar for you or different? What would you say?
Yeah, I think it's similar for me also. And you also want that the people who are listening have the time to verwerken.
Process.
Oh, to process the things you say, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And then they react on that. Dus that's maybe why I use silences in my poems, so people can think about what I really say. Because sometimes when you just talk, some people are going so fast, and then you're like, okay, but what did you actually say? And it has many minutes. It gives many minutes to land on it. So that's why I think that silences in poems is very nice, actually, because then you can really hear what someone has to say.
Yeah. So there's, and that is a nice addition, because we both now have the kind of rhetorical silence, the silence that you bring in so that a certain statement becomes stronger, for example, or certain emotion communicates more directly, or you allow for the space for the audience to respond. And then there is the more processing, kind of reflective type of silence that you bring in, where you use the silence just because it is kind of the audience needs it to actually process what just happened and the different layers of meaning that you just performed.
Yes.
Yeah, and I also think that as the poet, you know your work, you've written it, but as an audience member, it's new to you. So it is kind of, I think, to an extent, up to the poet to be able to communicate their poem in a way that is understandable by their audience.
Yeah. And it's, of course, interesting that this is you guys are the first poets that I have at this table. We've had photographers and filmmakers and theater makers and different kinds of artists before. But this is the first time for me interviewing poets. And of course, your medium is words and language in a way. And then to hear from you guys that silence is actually so important is kind of nice, because again, as you know, as my previous intern also, a big reason for this project was the fact that I was always confused about the fact that society seems to be so afraid of silence.
Yeah.
So maybe as poets working with silence so actively, if I ask you this question, what would you say? Why do you think silence is often received as scary or awkward or complicated or bad? You want to go first?
Yeah. I think that, a lot of the times silence is perceived as being awkward, or that there's some sort of miscommunication going on, that people are not on the same page. But I think what we talked about is kind of challenging that perspective.
Right, so it has to do with often the way in which silence is understood in the context of, for example, activism, is that silence means that something is not being said.
Yeah.
So silence is understood as the opposite of speech.
Yeah, kind of a lack.
Yeah, a lack of speech. Whereas what I learned from you guys is that silence can actually be the basis on which speech is more effectively kind of communicated. What do you think?
I think that there are so many noises with people. There's always noise. There are always people who talking, and when that's not there, people are like, oh, but where is it? You know, people are so dat ze er zo aan gewend zijn dat er geluid is, dat als het er niet is, dat het dan gewoon heel ongemakkelijk voelt.
Yeah, so people are so used to noise and to chatter and talking that when it falls away, it suddenly becomes very uncomfortable.
Yeah. Because they're like, okay, where is it? Where's the noise and the people who speak? And
which is an interesting thought, because of course in activism you often hear break the silence, but if listening to you, we would say like, which silence should we break? Like the common kind of the standard seems to be that everyone is always talking and chattering, and there's this kind of noise of people always talking a little bit. In a way, you could say that, depending on context, silence can actually be the thing that breaks the wall of voices, let's say, and it can be impactful in that sense.
Yeah, it gives some space to people to think about. Think about it.
Yeah, and it also reminds me of like hustle culture. It's fast paced. There's a lot going on, and your attention is constantly divided. And when there's a lot of noise, that's kind of what it is reminiscent of, I think. But then silence to me is kind of more like, okay, creating that space and almost taking a breath, breathing in and out, connecting with yourself and with other people, with your mind and your body. And yeah, that's kind of the way I see it, I think.
Yeah. So silence as a restorative moment, as a moment for people to rest and to catch their breath.
Yeah.
Very good. How about a second poem? You have a second poem?
Oh, I do. I do have a second poem. This one is a little bit longer. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this poem is called Tell My Fortune. Tell me, do you see my fortune in the grounds of my coffee? The brown grounds, do they look like they taste of red blood? A canvas of death, carrying a crescent moon and a single star beside it, like two siblings, different yet related. Or do you see a desert, sand, the color of the Sahara, burdened with the rays of the sun, heat, the shade of purple, slipping through your fingers? Or maybe you see a black garment shielding a tiny figure, a girl, carrying the burden of a grown woman. The sea, the calm and peaceful sea. Is that what you see in my coffee? Do you see me? Tell my fortune, for I have forgotten how to read. Hold my hand, for I have forgotten how to feel. Where are you from? Where do you come from? I come from my mother, who had me when she was my age, 23. I come from my grandmother, who carried 3 children and still continues to carry the weight of the world in the palm of her tiny hands. Tired. I am so tired. I shut my eyes, yet the weight of my eyelids is a weight I cannot bear. Rest seems to come to everyone but me. My dear, you must be silent to hear. You must be silent to see. Your past will always be a part of you, but your future is yearning for your attention, waiting to be created, formed, held, imagined. Your future is something you must reach for. You cannot change what was, but you can change what will be. My dear, don't you know that you shouldn't read your own fortune from the grounds of your coffee? Relax and let me tell you what I see. Here in your coffee, I see an eye. Someone is watching over you. You are being looked after. Now, what you must do is ask yourself, could that be me? I'm setting down the pain. It's too heavy to carry. I would rather hold myself in my arms. I'm letting the rain wash over me, cleanse the coffee cup clean. I'm closing my eyes and I am listening. I am listening. I am listening. Thank you.
Wow. Beautiful poem.
Thank you so much.
And indeed, once again, a central role for silence. I was smiling when the word silence came.
Yeah, I was like, yes.
I had the feeling that you were emphasizing the word extra for today's session. But yeah, of course, the worst thing you can do to a poet is ask them to interpret their own poem right after they performed it, but could you say
Yes.
something about the role that silence plays in this piece?
Yes. I wrote this poem, I think a little over like half a year ago or something, and I was enrolled in a poetry course here at the university, and this kind of came about through that. And this was also around the time I was doing the internship with you. So I was thinking a lot about silence and about space.
Yeah.
And I think that really shines through the poem because it was really just like, wait, I just need to be silent. It was almost like an answer that came to me because I was also going through some personal struggles and there was so much noise, like so many opinions, because I would constantly ask, my friends, my family, what should I do? What do you think? But I would never listen to myself and I would kind of avoid that. But then I realized that in order to actually do what was right for me, I had to just be silent for a bit, to listen and to observe the thoughts that came, the feelings that came, and then I could make the right decision, the decision that was right for me. And so I really, really still try to incorporate that in my life where sometimes I struggle to make a decision and then I'm like, wait, let me just be silent for a second. Let me maybe journal about it. Let me meditate on it. Let me do some yoga and, see what comes up or something. I think something I heard is that sometimes let's say if you're in the shower or if you're taking a walk or it's just in those moments where you're connecting to things or to nature or if you're just silent, then thoughts come to you, the answer comes to you. And I really, really believe that. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a beautiful thought. This is once again another dimension of silence today. We have a lot of different silences in this conversation. This one is the silence of openness, let's say, to allow the answers to come to you.
Yeah.
Some people would take this also in a religious sense, of course, kind of in a devotional sense or spiritual sense for the answers to come to you, but it doesn't have to be strictly religious. It can also be in a more meditative, open kind of way. It means a similar thing, and I really like that. Also in connection to nature, our silent relationship to nature can, of course, be very healing.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thanks.
One more poem from your side. And then we're moving towards my final questions. And then finally, of course, the objects on the table.
Oh, yeah. I always forgot that.
Yeah, me too.
Yes.
Go ahead, Cheyenne.
Oké. Het is een tijdje geleden dat wij elkaar mochten ontmoeten. En je mag best weten, ik kijk er naar uit. Ik kan niet wachten om jouw glimlach te aanschouwen en te bouwen aan meer contact. Een stabiele connectie in correctie van het verleden. Ik zou je een knuffel willen geven, willen proosten op het leven en genieten, omdat niets vanzelfsprekend. We gebruiken niet voor niets de woorden tot ziens. En daarnaast denk ik alles op zijn tijd. Ik bedoel eigenlijk alles op zijn tijd. Want ik was redelijk goed voorbereid. Alleen hij wilde alles op zijn tijd. En ik ben niet op zoek naar strijd, maar wel eerlijkheid. Dus ik vermijd de klok, de wijzer, zelfs de secondenwijzer als dat wijs is. De tikkende tijdbom tikt. Tik, tak, tik, tak, tik. Slaat om in paniek. Slaat om in zekerheid van het onzeker zijn. En het is geen verwijt, maar wel mijn gevoel. Het doel communicatie. Want jij vertelde mij dat communicatie de key was. Maar waarom zit jouw gevoel dan op slot? Opgekropt in een ruimte die blijkbaar te klein. Voor mijn interesse voor jou, voor mijn liefde voor jou, als ik daarvan al kan spreken, van mij voor jou. Ik wil het kunnen plaatsen van gevoel. Duidelijkheid voor beide. Of ben ik de overdenker in dit verhaal? Men zegt, op elk potje past een dekseltje. En tot die tijd vul ik mijn potje met herinneringen.
I'm learning fast.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's also, I think, more sympathetic to the person doing the audio, that it's not really loud clapping in front of the microphone.
Oh, awesome.
All right, so this is this is a poem about either a relationship, or kind of a romantic entanglement. You want to say a little more about it?
A little more is that sometimes you want to say so much, but you can't find the right words for it, so you say nothing. And that was in this case that I had so many questions to ask and I had so many things to say, but I couldn't find the right words, so I was silent.
And in this case, I have the feeling that it was not per se a good thing, or was it?
No. Oh, no, not a good thing, but it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, because that would be the follow-up question. If you would have said all those things, would that have solved it?
I don't think so. I think that there are more question marks than. Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah. You want to say something about it? What did you think about the poem?
I really liked it. And I really liked the parts where you were like the tick tack. Yeah, that was just an interesting element, I think, to hear as an audience member as well. And then kind of the conversational, kind of the communicatie stuff I found interesting. And I guess about the silence element, sometimes like even if you do stay silent or you do speak up, like it's just no matter what you do, it just ends in a way that it's meant to end. And sometimes it's prolonged, sometimes, Yeah. So that's just what it made me think of.
Yeah. No, it's a really good poem with lots of different, again, sides, and it's an ambivalent silence again, kind of like the early silences we were talking about, where the voice, speaking up would have probably been exhausting to kind of say everything, and this is maybe even one of the reasons you didn't say all those things. Yeah. But then the silence that you chose is also frustrating in the end, and in a way, the interesting lesson here is that voice or silence didn't really matter in case of what kind of the outcome would possibly have been the same. Yeah. I think we're slowly wrapping up this part of the conversation, and before moving on to the objects, I would still like to ask one final question, which is about your poetry as compared to the kind of other work that you do. Let's start with you. In your case, you're both a student of literature, you're a cultural theorist, and then you're also a poet next to it. I would say, are there certain things or topics that are easier for you to express in poetry or in your academic work, or vice versa?
Well, I think that in my academic work, I try to almost research things that I have question marks about in my personal life. Like in terms of culture and like hybrid identity, for example. So I try to find the academic solutions and not necessarily solutions, I guess, but just the train of thought there and what academics think. And I like to explore that and I like to write about that. But I also like to incorporate kind of a more like a personal element to my academic writing as well. So like I mentioned in my master's thesis, I also did end up including a poem of mine, the one that I read first. And I think that's my way of kind of, combining the two worlds almost and making it a hybrid kind of,
Wow, I love that answer.
Yeah, I thought of this on the bus ride here. And I was like, oh, that is what I do, actually.
It is impressive. I mean, that's a really good answer.
Yeah,
the way in which both of these worlds start to merge and fuse, basically. And both offer something that the other world perhaps cannot offer entirely.
Exactly.
And then bringing them together and blurring the boundaries between the two is kind of the ultimate way of communicating as closely to your heart as possible.
Yeah, I love blurring boundaries.
Yeah? Very good.
Yeah.
How about you? Then a similar question, but then for your work as a family research specialist, I can imagine you deal with a lot of trauma and kind of complicated situations. And from what I gather, your poetry is dealing with similar themes a lot.
Yeah.
So how do these two worlds differ or come together?
I think that give some situations a place to write about it, and also that when a teenager is like, oh, I don't know how to omgaan met je gevoelens.
Yeah, I don't know how to deal with my emotions.
When they don't know how to deal with emotions, then I also say, hey, can you write something? You know, or is it a story or just words? You know, that it's not also in your mind but on paper. So je hoopt dat het dan zeg maar eruit is.
Yeah. So poetry can also even be a strategy or a method, let's say, that you use in your work to help people express their feelings.
Yeah.
Maybe if a more professional conversation between a person and their therapist, for example, doesn't work because the context is too strict or too cold, let's say, poetry can be a medium in which it comes out differently.
Yeah.
Maybe also because it's something they do alone at first.
Yeah.
It's just them and a piece of paper.
And it's all fine. That's what I always say. It's all good what you're writing, and I don't have to read it. But it's the goal is that it's out of your mind, and you're not dat je er de hele tijd mee bezig bent.
Yeah. So by putting it on paper, basically, you kind of take it out of your mental state, and it stops bothering you in the same way. So to silence your mind, you kind of fill the words with paper.
Exactly.
Yes.
Oh wow! But actually, that feels pretty good. Right. Final segment, my friends. Let's talk about the objects that we see on the table. Who wants to go first?
I don't mind.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. This is a doll from the friend who passed away, and when I look at it, it says so much because it's from anime and it's really cool, and it was something he really loved. But when I look at it, I'm silent because I'm like, you're not here anymore. So that's what it means for me. And I'm happy that he had a doll with more clothes on.
Yeah, he had multiple dolls.
Yeah.
Make a selection.
But
so this is yours now, or you?
Yeah, this is mine. Yeah, from him then.
Yeah, so this is a beautiful example of how an object can carry kind of the memory of a person. And that it somehow, this silent meaning goes beyond the materiality of the object, or even the kind of reference of what this object, what this figure is kind of referring to in terms of the series that it's from. It's from an anime, I guess. Yeah. In this case, the silent, it's a silent carrier of someone's, your personal memory of a loved one who passed away.
Yes.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
Wow.
No problem.
Vuslat.
My turn. Okay. There we go. Okay, so this is my object. It's a bookmark, and it says "Courage, dear heart," and it's Queen Lucy of Narnia who says it. So I was studying abroad in Liverpool 2 years ago, I believe, and I was enrolled in a children's literature course, and I was auditing this course. And one of my teachers there, Jill, I had her before for another course, so we kind of knew each other. And for one of the homework assignments, she asked us to do something, and kind of the winning team would like get a little present, and it was the bookmark. But I actually didn't end up doing this homework because I'm just auditing the course, right? But at the end of class, when people were packing up, getting ready to go, she came by my table and she handed me this bookmark, and she was like, I would also like you to have this. So that, meant a lot to me, of course. And every time I look at this, it just reminds me of her. And I put it in between my journal. So that's why whenever I journal, I take it out, right? I journal, I put it back in, and I read it, and I feel like the message, like courage, dear heart, just speaks to me a lot, and it resonates with me. And I don't know, like it just makes me feel grateful for where I am now and how far I've come. And it's just, I love the message that it sends. And I think it will just always be very important to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you also for sharing.
Of course.
Yeah, and this is also an object then. It's not only a carrier of a memory, let's say, a silent carrier of memory, but in a way you still use it actively. Because it is a bookmark that you use for your journal.
Yeah.
So it also becomes an object that you interact with from time to time, and it activates this memory in a way. So this is another example of how we silently communicate or interact with objects, kind of, and open up certain portals into the past or into the future. Beautiful. Both of you, thank you so much. I learned a lot again about silence. There's so much to learn. So many different kinds of silence that we've discussed today. Yeah, I will retreat into silence myself now. It's just the last thing I want to say. Thank you both so much for coming.
Of course. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Of course.
Eleka tamatai salupeu. Sandete kai tamatai salupea. Sa ndete au mina. Leke mtulu mina. Kai ale arekwa. Kai alale mise. Tolone amai rulu suike. Totonai mina. Sa ndete au mpai.